The late 1970s in a small town called Circleville, Ohio. You know, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. People leave their doors unlocked, and gossip spreads faster than wildfire. And then, out of nowhere, mysterious letters start showing up in people's mailboxes. Not the usual, hey, wanna buy some Girl Scout cookies kind of letters. Nope, these were anonymous, threatening, and creepy as hell. The person at the center of it all? Mary Gillispie. Mary was a school bus driver, just trying to live her life. She was married to Ron Gillispie, a hardworking guy, and together they had kids. A pretty normal family, until the letters started showing up. The first one was addressed to Mary, and it didn't waste time with pleasantries. It accused her of having an affair with Gordon Massey, the local school superintendent. Massey was the big boss of the local school district, the guy in charge of everything related to the town's schools. He wasn't some random teacher or administrator. He was a well-respected figure in Circleville. He was married, had a family, and was supposed to be the kind of guy who kept everything running smoothly. But according to the letters, he was hiding a secret. Whoever was writing them seemed obsessed with proving that Massey and Mary were sneaking around behind closed doors. The letter demanded that Mary end the affair immediately or else. Now here's the thing. Mary denied everything. She insisted she wasn't having an affair, that someone was just trying to stir up trouble. But the letters kept coming. And they weren't just going to her. They were going to her husband, her neighbors, and even Massey himself. Whoever this was wanted to destroy both of them. At first, it was just Mary and Gordon Massey getting letters. But soon, other people in Circleville started receiving them too. These letters weren't just about Mary. They were about everyone. They accused town officials of corruption. They exposed affairs, crimes, and dirty secrets. Things that, if true, only someone very close to the victims would know. They included intimate details about people's lives, what time they left for work, what they did in their free time, even what they said in private conversations. Whoever was behind them wasn't just making things up. They had been watching people, and they weren't stopping. Some letters were delivered directly to the intended victims. Others were mailed to family members, neighbors, and even bosses, spreading rumors and causing absolute chaos. The messages were always threatening, sometimes demanding the recipients change their behavior, sometimes just taunting them with the knowledge that someone knew their secrets. And the most terrifying part? The writing never changed. Same block letter style, almost robotic, like someone was intentionally disguising their handwriting. Same deliberate wording, almost clinical, but packed with menace. No return address, no signature, just pure anonymous intimidation. It was like the town had a stalker, one that wasn't targeting just one person, but everyone. Mary and Ron tried to keep it quiet, but the pressure was building. Then, in August 1977, Ron got a phone call that changed everything. We still don't know who was on the other end, but whatever they said made Ron furious. He grabbed his gun, jumped into his truck, and sped off. Minutes later, he was dead. His truck had crashed into a tree, and his gun had been fired once, but at what? There was no sign of a struggle and no bullet was found at the scene. Even weirder, Ron's blood alcohol level was sky high, but his family swore he wasn't a drinker. It was ruled an accident, but a lot of people didn't buy it. And the letters, they kept coming. Here's where things get even messier. Years later, Mary admitted that she had, in fact, been involved with Massey, but only after the letters started. She claimed the relationship didn't begin until after her husband's death. So was the letter writer exposing a real affair before anyone else knew about it? Or did the relentless accusations actually push Mary and Massey together? Either way, the letters didn't stop. Things took a seriously dangerous turn in February 1983. By this point, Mary was still receiving letters, but now the threats were more extreme. Someone wanted her dead. One day, while she was out driving her school bus, she spotted something strange by the side of the road. A sign. It was another attack on her. A nasty message about her and Gordon Massey. Fed up, she pulled over, got out of the bus, and went to rip the sign down. And that's when she saw it. Behind the sign was a trap. Whoever had put the sign up had also rigged a gun to it. A literal booby trap designed to go off the moment she pulled the sign down. Luckily, Mary's instincts saved her. She noticed the string attached to the gun's trigger and stopped just in time. If she had pulled that sign down with any force, the gun would have fired right at her face. Let that sink in. This wasn't just about creepy letters anymore. Someone had just tried to kill her. The police were all over it. Finally, this wasn't just mysterious letters. This was attempted murder. Enter Paul Freshour. All right, let's take a deeper dive into Paul Freshour, the man at the center of this whole mess. Paul was a family man, a seemingly normal guy living in Circleville. He worked at Anheuser-Busch, the big beer company, and by all accounts, he was a hardworking and responsible citizen. He was married to Karen Sue Freshour, who just so happened to be Ron Gillispie's sister. Yep, the same Ron who was married to Mary Gillispie. So that means Paul was Mary's brother-in-law, at least until he and Karen got divorced in the early 1980s. According to some reports, Paul and Karen's marriage was falling apart around the same time the letters started spreading around town. And when they eventually got divorced, it wasn't exactly a friendly split. Karen reportedly told her boss at work that Paul was a violent man, and she was afraid of what he might do. And guess who Karen moved in with after the divorce? Mary Gillispie. So, how did Paul go from being a regular guy to the prime suspect? Well, remember the booby-trapped gun that nearly killed Mary? When police traced the gun, it was linked back to Paul. Now, Paul swore up and down that his gun had been stolen before the attack, but police weren't convinced. Then there was the handwriting test. When detectives questioned Paul, they had him copy the style of the Circleville Letters. And according to them, his writing looked similar. But here's the thing. They literally told him to copy the letters. He didn't write them in his own natural handwriting. They asked him to try to match the block letter style. And then they said, "Yep, looks close enough." Not exactly bulletproof evidence, right? But still, when Paul went to trial, the jury bought it. They convicted him of attempted murder for the booby trap. Even though there was zero physical evidence linking him to the actual letters, he was still widely seen as the Circleville letter writer. And with that, he was sent to prison for 7 to 25 years. Here's where things get really weird. Once Paul was locked up, the letters didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. Letters were still being sent to people in Circleville. Even Paul himself received one. While he was behind bars, the writer taunted him, acting like they had won. One of the letters read, "Freshour, now when are you going to believe you aren't going to get out of there? I told you 2 years ago. When we set them up, they stay set up. Don't you listen at all?" So how was Paul writing letters from inside prison? Prison officials monitored all his outgoing mail. He wasn't sending anything. His cell was searched multiple times, and nothing suspicious was found. The letters were still postmarked from Columbus, Ohio, not from the prison he was in. So either Paul was the greatest criminal mastermind ever, or someone else was responsible. Paul Freshour was finally released from prison in 1994 after serving about 10 years. But he never stopped fighting to clear his name. Even years later, he insisted he was framed. He worked with investigators, reporters, and even appeared on TV, trying to prove that he wasn't the Circleville letter writer. In 1993, while still in prison, Paul was featured on Unsolved Mysteries, where his case was re-examined. After that episode aired, the show's producers received their own anonymous letter. It read, "Forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, you El Secos will pay. Even decades later, the mystery wasn't over. Paul passed away in 2012, still maintaining that he was innocent. So, if Paul wasn't the Circleville letter writer, then who was? Over the years, multiple theories have surfaced. Let's break down some of the most popular and strangest suspects. Paul's ex-wife, Karen Freshour. This theory is juicy because, remember, Karen was Ron Gillispie's sister. She and Paul had a nasty divorce. After the divorce, Karen moved in with Mary Gillispie, the main victim of the letters. She had plenty of reasons to want to ruin Paul's life. Could she have been the one writing the letters all along? Think about it. If Karen was the real Circleville letter writer, it would explain how the letters kept coming while Paul was in prison. Maybe she had been setting him up the whole time. And remember that booby-trapped gun? What if Karen was the one who stole it from Paul and planted it at the scene? It would make perfect sense. But if this was the case, why didn't the police even consider her as a suspect? Some believe it's because she was close to the sheriff's department. She reportedly had friends in law enforcement, and some say she may have used those connections to keep herself out of trouble. Did Karen get away with it? A mysterious third party, a group conspiracy? Some researchers believe the Circleville letters weren't the work of one person, but multiple people working together. Why? The letters contained too much inside information about multiple people in town. They didn't just target Mary Gillispie, they called out different people's secrets across Circleville. Even when Paul was locked up, the letters never stopped. This has led some to believe the letters were part of a coordinated effort, maybe by a group of people who wanted to control the town. Some have even suggested law enforcement may have been involved. Or, at the very least, they knew more than they let on. Think about it. The sheriff's office quickly closed the case on Paul Freshour. They ignored obvious holes in the evidence. And even after Paul went to prison, they never reopened the investigation when the letters kept coming. It's suspicious, to say the least. Could someone high up in the community have been the real mastermind? The school superintendent, Gordon Massey. This one is wild, but stay with me. We know that the letters originally started because of Gordon Massey. The writer was obsessed with exposing his affair with Mary Gillispie. They wanted to ruin his reputation and get him fired. And yet, Massey seemed weirdly unaffected by all of this. While Mary was being terrorized, Massey never really spoke out publicly. And get this, after the affair was exposed, he was quietly transferred to a different school district. No scandal, no firing, no big deal. Could it be that Massey was the one behind the letters the whole time? Maybe he wanted to scare Mary into ending things before the affair got out of control. Maybe he had help from someone else. Or maybe someone close to him, a jealous wife, a disgruntled colleague, was out for revenge. It's a long shot, but in a case this bizarre, anything is possible. Gordon Massey's wife? She had the most personal reason to be furious about the affair. Imagine the betrayal she felt, especially with a prominent figure like Mary involved. She could have easily felt humiliated and wanted revenge. But instead of confronting her husband directly, maybe she took a quieter, more methodical approach, writing letters to ruin his life. The letters exposed the affair, humiliated Gordon, and twisted everything into chaos. Think about how well the letters contained specific details. Only someone close to Gordon could have known that. And the way they demanded the affair stop? It wasn't just about revenge. It was about making sure Gordon's world crumbled. Why didn't Gordon speak out? Maybe he suspected his wife was behind it, but didn't want to make the situation worse. After all, when the affair came to light, he quietly moved to another district with little to no repercussions. And don't forget about the booby-trapped gun. What if she planted it, hoping to frame Paul for something she herself orchestrated? In the end, if Gordon Massey's wife was the Circleville letter writer, it means she carried out a cold, calculated revenge plot. And if she got away with it, She watched Paul go to prison, all while keeping her own hands clean. A complete unknown, someone no one ever suspected. There's always the possibility that the Circleville letter writer was someone completely off the radar, someone with deep grudges against the town, someone who knew everyone's darkest secrets, someone who was never caught. If that's the case, then the scariest question remains. Did the Circleville letter writer ever stop? Or did they just move on to their next victim? Or maybe it was someone no one ever suspected, someone who knew the town inside and out, someone who wanted power, control, revenge. Despite decades of investigation, theories, and speculation, the identity of the Circleville letter writer is still unknown. What we do know, Paul Freshour went to prison, but the letters never stopped. Someone knew deep, dark secrets about Circleville residents. The case was hushed up quickly, and law enforcement seemed eager to pin it all on Paul. Even after all these years, the real Circleville letter writer was never caught. Whoever it was, they wanted to control people through fear, and they succeeded. And maybe, just maybe, they're still out there. So what do you think? Who was behind the Circleville letters? Is there another theory we're missing? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this crazy mystery. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime stories and unsolved mysteries. The truth may still be out there,